today in conversation with myself, I've got someone that doesn't need no introduction. I mean, probably can't recognize him because the distinctive haircut is not on show, but this is someone that's talent, story goes before him. It's one of the, I'll probably say one of the purest people in football, one of the people in football that really tells their story for what it is. And one of the people in football that I think we need to cherish because his story is a story of so many different footballers, but we actually don't get to hear it. So got the one and only John Bostock with me today. How are you doing, bro? You all right?
Bro, I'm good, man. What an intro. I really appreciate that, man. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for being here. So I've been speaking to a lot of different personnel within football, right? And quarantine it's a time where a lot of things changes. Everything changes, essentially. But one thing I've been really interested in with everyone I've had a conversation with is how is your diet at the moment now that you're not training as you usually train? How's that going?
My diet, that's a great question. So I'm always top of my food.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like the clubs, obviously they do body fat testing, making sure everything's on point. So that's normally, I'm always one of the lowest for body fat and stuff, but I've got a sweet tooth. When it comes to chocolate and popcorn, oh my days. Popcorn is the one. Nah, sweet, man, sweet. So there's been times I would drive to a cinema, buy popcorn and drive home.
You being serious?
Yeah. It's that deep. So when it comes to sweet stuff, that's my Achilles heel. So yeah, honestly, my diet's good. My weight's actually lower than it was before.
Okay.
So I've stayed on top of it. And diets, and the club have sorted us out with some food here and there. So.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So they've actually sorted out with food.
Yeah, and which is I can't even tell you how much my family appreciate it. So yeah, that's been
I didn't know that clubs do that. I know that there was like supply the programs and the training and everything, but to supply food is pretty, especially with everything that's going on now, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, no, it helps so much. Helps a lot. I know it's kind of tricky in terms of going to get your own food, which we do also, but just having some sort of staple format every week where they try to supply some meals and stuff. It's been a big help.
Yeah.
So yeah, to be fair, to answer your question, bro, I'm on top of it. I'm doing well. But yeah, the little chocolates and popcorn is featuring.
Creeping in here and there. No, I mean that's respectable though. I mean we're in interesting times, so you're allowed to do things like that here and there. With yourself, you're one of those people, right? You've always seemed to be the person that kind of asks how are people doing, or look out for people, or share your story. But with everything going on, I know you've kind of been speaking here and there, but how are you with this quarantine situation at the moment? I mean, if we look at your career almost, this is someone that from a young age, you've been touted for the top, you've been performing week in, week out. And now we're in a situation where there is not you can train yourself, but you don't have to go in for training. The world that you kind of have grown up in and everything around football has paused. How has that been for you?
It's been tricky. It's been tricky. As you mentioned, like normally you have a program set out for you. So you're at training every day, come in this time, train this time, eat this time, leave this time, see you tomorrow. Yeah. This is like, look, you're responsible for your own diet, we have a program and schedule which we adhere to or try to adhere to, most of the players. So it's down to you, it really is. But I'm also aware, I think what's been my drive is the fact that you don't know when you're coming back. And it's always better to stay ready. So you ain't got to get ready.
Yeah.
And so, and also I think correct vision brings correct discipline. So for a lot of players now, it's like, they don't even know when they're coming back. So kind of disciplines drop there as well, naturally.
Yeah.
Because there's no return date as of yet. However, if you have a vision, look, let me just keep myself good. Let me do the best I can do. Let me try and where I can to grow, to improve. Then normally if you have a vision that you're actually working on yourself, like you are your own project, the discipline will follow. So it is tricky, bro. Like not only footballers, but the whole world has not been in this situation before. It's unprecedented times. So everyone's adapting. I believe everyone's trying their best. Yeah. But we've got a job to do. So whenever we are called back, whatever the news may be, we have to finish it. So, yeah.
And I guess for you, it's I guess there's even added complexity to it, because obviously with your situation at Forest at the moment, you got into the squad. I mean, you had to buy your time and everything. The manager came out and he was always saying stuff like, you know what, your mental state is probably the best he's seen, because you just kept working, which is, that sums you up to a T. You go into the squad, you're performing, this happens. We don't know when the league's coming back. Contract ends at a specific date. The team you're supposed to return to in Toulouse has been relegated, and that's all in a mess. So how does it feel being in kind of this complex world where you can't control any of that stuff that's happening, but there's so much different things that affect you? I mean, the club you're supposed to be returning to is going to be a completely different state when you go back. The Charlton move came up, and that would have been a return to South London for you. Didn't go through. So there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the last few months for you. How's that been?
Bro, the first thing that comes to my mind is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5-6. Trust in the Lord of all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge him in all of your ways, and he'll make your path straight. I've learned enough in football to realize, if you try and calculate, if you try and plan and schedule, and don't get me wrong, goals are important, dreams are important, aspirations are important, but if you try and make sense of the future in terms of where you're going to be, what's going to happen, you'll get lost there. You have to just trust God, let go, and enjoy the journey for where you are. And that's what I'm doing, and there's real freedom in that. And so I don't know where I'll be next season. Obviously, I've got another year at Toulouse, who unfortunately went down. I'm in Forest now. We've still got a job to do. Hopefully, it's looking like my loan will get extended at least till the end of the season, because contractually you have to extend a little bit more to finish the games. So it's interesting. It really is interesting. But I'm confident in the one who holds my future. So although the circumstances might be shaky, I'm not shaken. So that's been my hope.
No, that's powerful, man. And you talk about trust in the Lord, and one thing that's always stood up about you is you've made key decisions that people have kind of gone, what is going on here? But I guess that whole trust in the Lord thing is a major thing. If we take it back a few years now, you had that spell when you was 21, right? And you thought to yourself, and you vocally said you're not too sure if you want to continue with football. And that came from years before that of kind of being the Wonderkid, the chosen one, the golden boy, Barcelona after you and everything, making the debut early, going to Spurs, being the youngest person there. How much is kind of trusting in the Lord and mental strength a key part in that? Because, and I guess from another point of view, do you feel that having been that Wonderkid and been playing with the under 18s at the age of 14, that kind of that formative part of your life or your football education was kind of taken away because of the pressure that was around you?
Think, just to answer your second part of the question, I feel like there wasn't a pressure in the beginning. Do you know what I mean? It's like, as a young player, you don't have fear. I think you learn fear. But even the kids aren't scared. But they learn fear from other people's feelings, expectations, and maybe their fears. That's what you start to carry. And so as a kid, I trained with the first team for the first time when I was 14. You know, so I trained with no fear. It's like, I've got nothing to lose. I should be here. That's how I felt, honestly. You know, but after time, you start to listen to the winds of people's opinions. You start to carry weight of expectations and stuff. Like, that's when you can start to fear making mistakes, fear not being what people think you might be. So that's what came after. But initially, in the beginning, it felt like a smooth journey. Obviously, there's like injury and stuff. Literally, it was just, obviously there was a lot of sacrifices that were made, especially growing up where I grew up in South London. Streatham, first of all, 5 people got stabbed in my road in 1 year. Moved to Camberwell, right between Brixton and Peckham. You know, interesting place to grow up as a kid. But football was my focus. So it was kind of, it chose me, you know. The first part of your question, how does trusting God help the mental side? Bro, honestly, everybody's striving to be someone. Everybody's trying to strive for a destination. But you have to realize that, like, each and every one of us were made for a purpose. And the one who made us knows the purpose. So if you're trying to run without the one who made you, you're just going to keep running, and you're going to find frustration. You're going to find anxiety, fear, worry. You know, even when you get what you want, you're gonna find it doesn't satisfy. So having the one who made me, who knows me, knows the plans he has for me, and trusting him, having that relationship with him, it's a game changer, bro. Knowing that even through ups and downs, I mean, real suffering, stuff I've been through with family and football and friends and stuff, like, it's real suffering. But even in the midst of that, I have peace because he's with me. So yeah, man, I realized that my journey is the success. It's not Champions League or World Cup or Premier League winner. Don't get me wrong, those things are stuff I would love to still achieve.
Yeah.
But the success is in the journey. That's where my perception has changed since coming to know Christ. It's changed that completely.
No, that's powerful, man. And I often, when I have conversations in group chats and whatnot, because obviously I grew up in South as well, and people mention John Bostock, is like, oh, it was sick, he should have done. My thing is, hearing you speak is so powerful. And you said that there was a point in your career where you said you had to go and find home.
Mm-hmm.
And that resonates so much, because I see a lot of young players coming through now. They come through academies and everything, and there's a lot of kids that are touted for the next level. Sure. Now, because of one reason or the other, it could be that, you know what, they've not just adjusted to the physical game. You know what, the manager's not right for them. That doesn't happen. And what tends to happen is, for some of the reason, depending on their personality, they get painted with this brush that, it must be the attitude. And that's what you got a lot of. It was kind of, you know, he must not be playing because of his attitude. Mm-hmm. And you've been open and said that it takes a while to get away from that stain. Mm-hmm. For me, how has it been kind of going from the Wonderkid to the boy that went wandering? Because, I mean, you went to the State, you went to Toronto, you went Belgium, went France, went Turkey, and then all of that's brought you back to the UK now. But you just seem like a man that's at peace with himself, a man that's you're still on this journey, but it just feels like you feel now that this is where God was supposed to take, and that sense of tranquility and peace is, a lot of footballers don't have that in their career. They always finish their career and think, you know what, it was a mad journey. But you just seem like you're content. What is it like having that sort of stigma painted on you and having to try and find your way back to where you deem is where you want to be?
I remember, like, if you Google my name and click news when I was 20, it was just nothing but negative press. And this is about a kid, a young man who hadn't played more than 10 games in a season before. Yeah. And just opinions. And that's the thing, football is a game of opinions. Mm-hmm. Now, opinions aren't facts.
Straight up, yeah.
So they can change, like they do. People's opinions change, you know. And so, but if there's a cloud of opinion about you that's negative, I was like, you know what, that needs to change. But I wasn't so focused on people's opinions. Like, look, I don't care anymore. I don't care. I keep saying it. Like, if you live for people's acceptance, you'll die by their rejection. And I learned it the hard way, you know, because I used to live for their acceptance, and that's why I got low. When I realized, you know what, I don't care what people say anymore. I'm living for the acceptance of one, and he's proud of me. So I can play free. I can let go. So once I just kind of stopped looking to the right, looking to the left, and just played football, enjoying my walk with God, enjoying my football, just kicking ball like a kid again, the headlines changed. And I had my own voice. I could actually talk about who I am, and interviews would ask me questions about, and they'd see my character come across. Managers would start to give their opinions about me as a man, not just as a former Wonderkid. The whole conversation changed. And so it wasn't a forced thing, but I am aware that media have a huge role to play, and I think they should be held accountable, especially young players, because they don't have anyone to defend them. And even if a stigma's put on them, if a young player speaks out against it, it's like, who does he think he's a young kid? He's just focused on football. So it's like, now you can see a little bit more into players' lives with social media, and you can kind of get a vibe of where they're at. Kind of when I was coming up, I'm not that old, but you know, there wasn't this whole invasive view. Yeah. You see the players' routines, what they post and stuff. So all I had was
when you were coming through, because there wasn't that, if someone had written something, it was taken as the gospel truth, because ultimately there's no way of you showcasing that it's not the truth, which is which can be really detrimental to one's confidence and career, I guess.
But you have to get to a place where you don't care anymore. Every person has to get there, and no matter what walk of life you're in, what I mean care, I mean caring about opinions.
Mm.
And I can't give you a better example than Jesus.
Mm.
He didn't care what people thought, and he is the greatest man to ever live. He achieved the purpose he came for. And so if you always care what people think about you, you're never going to be who you were created to be, because then you start to mold into a box that people want to put you in. You have to realize, what's your why? Why are you doing it? Was I doing it to be a Wonderkid, or was I doing it because I love football? And it took me a while to kind of get back to the root of it. So in everybody watching, it's like, what's your why? Why are you doing it? Because if it's for people, then what happens when people aren't feeling you no more? What, you going to stop? No, you have to have a deep why. So
it's so true. And I guess the hard thing, especially in football, and the thing is, you probably be able to testify to this, is it's important not to care about football people's opinions, but within the game of football, and feel free to touch on this or count if you want, it's so opinion driven. I mean, you can be a player where you believe that, you know what, you're a good player. One manager might be at the helm and he says, you know what, you're amazing, I'm going to make you my star man. That's his opinion. The next manager might come in and say, you know what, you're too flamboyant for me, or you're not strong enough, you don't suit my identity. And especially for young players, when you're going through these situations, it is tough, because you can know who you are within yourself, but in what you want to do and what you want to achieve, people's opinions can kind of have a massive part to play in what happens going forward. So how do you overcome that? I know you've done it, so you can probably touch on it, but that's probably one of the hardest things to do in football, because any footballer, I didn't make it because I wasn't good enough, but any footballer I've ever spoken to, I would say, is that, you know what, having a manager that has confidence in me does the world for me, or having someone that puts the arm around me says that, you know what, that makes a difference. But if I don't have those things, it can knock my confidence. So if the guy comes in and says, you know what, you don't really suit identity, I might not be able to perform. So how do you get around that?
Oh, great question. And I think it's important that I clarify the context of how I answered the last question was for the whole media and outside bubble.
Yeah.
Inside football, there are people that you need to respect their opinions. For example, if a manager wants you to have a certain role in a game, and all you want to do is stepovers, then you're going to be on the bench. Do you know what I mean? So you have to be willing to be flexible, but also realize that, like, even a manager's opinion can't define you. I've had managers not feel me. Next minute they get sacked. The new manager comes in, I'm captain. You know, so again, it goes back to opinions. Like, opinions can change, and just because one person thinks something about you doesn't mean that's final. You know, so you have to be wise of it. You know, you have to also be willing to be humble. You know, realizing that you need to learn. I remember I went to Spurs. I started training with the team, and in every session they put me on 2 touches. Everyone else is free. I'm on 2 touch. And I thought, nah, they're just trying to stifle my development. But how can they be doing this to me? It's because where I needed to go, I needed to move the ball fast.
Yeah.
If I want to send under 18s, then cool, take 10 touches. But if you want to go to the first team, which they could see from the outside, look, he's got the potential. But he needs to work on this. He needs to move the ball quicker. So they could see what I couldn't see. So I had to come under their tutelage, be humble, and do it. And it helped my game. Even in the midst of it, I couldn't see it. It helped me. So for a lot of young players, be humble, but also realize that just because somebody has an opinion doesn't mean it's final. So that's my advice to that question.
On the humility point, with Spurs, you had a situation where kind of you've gone in, everyone knows that you are the guy, you are the guy, and you've played first team football, and then it's had this situation where it's kind of, they've told you to go back to under 18s. And for you, this is someone that, like you mentioned, has been playing under 18s football since you were 14, training with first team. Again, that probably is an example of the whole humility thing. But in that moment, how did that feel? Because it's probably something that resonates a lot with younger footballers at the moment as well, because you might go on loan to let's say you're at your Premier League team, you might go on loan to a Championship team.
Yeah.
You're doing really well. You're getting your game time. You come back from loan and it's like, oh, you know what? We don't think you're quite ready yet. Go back to under 18s. It's like, well, hold on, but I've just proven that I can perform. Why am I going back a step? Even with your career, making the move to abroad and going to those leagues, people said you're making a backward step. What's your viewpoint on that and the lessons that it told you about that humility and saying, you know what, let's just take it back to the foundation?
Sure. Football's a long race. Life is a long race. It's not about where you are now. It's where you finish. You know, and just because you take a step back, the race doesn't finish there. And if you're good enough and you have the right mentality, that step back will just be like a slingshot pulling you back to go further. Because me going to Antwerp, no disrespect to Antwerp, they're a phenomenal club. Now they're in the Premier League, in the Belgian Prem, oldest club in Belgium, great history. But when I went there, the club was in problems, second division, not really performing. So to go from Spurs to Antwerp, second division in Belgium, looked like a big step back. But for me, it was right, because I just needed games. I needed to play away from English media, even friends and family, and just play. So for me, I wasn't looking at it like, oh, and listen, the salary they gave me, it was the lowest I've ever had, since a schoolboy. And I was signed a 2-year deal there. So it was like, but I realized that from where I wanted to go, I needed just to play. And if I'm good enough, then somebody else will see me. If I'm just playing and enjoying my football, there's a shop window where people can come and watch, and I can put my talent on display. Then then it's down to me to perform. But I feel like for a lot of players, like they don't want to step down. And also I say this to a lot of young players as well. Like in England, if you get released from a club where you're not playing, people they look down. Okay, let me go down the divisions. But you can look across, even abroad. So for me, going to Belgium, likes of Holland or Spain, or I were at France, there are clubs horizontally around, and so for me, you have to be willing to humble yourself. Even the scripture says, humble yourself, and in the right time, God will exalt you. So like humility, realizing that, look, you have a gift, and also go where you're celebrated.
Yeah, that's a massive thing, actually.
I had such great advice from my pastor. He's like, look, John, in all the moves, some of my moves were very messy. It wasn't people see the curve of progress, but some of it was.
But it was literally kind of like, in hindsight, it is a little bit like.
I signed for a club the same night. I was in tears, crying. I made the wrong decision. Me and my wife, we were both in tears. Like, we made the wrong one. So there wasn't even peace there, but I knew it was right. But it was painful because of the fans. It was tricky.
Yeah.
But you must go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. So where there's a platform to play, where you're gonna have a chance, go, and don't be afraid to take a step down.
I think it was probably 2 years ago now. You did the documentary. We went back to Palace, right?
Yeah.
Really moving documentary, and it's there's a lot of anecdotes within that which were kind of just really pure. Because I mean, you're going back to where you were formerly celebrated, touching on being celebrated and everything. With the situation at Palace, you've openly come out and said, if you had your time again, you'd have probably stayed. As a young player, do you reckon that, especially the Wonderkids, there is a lot of pressure? Because, like you said, you didn't feel the pressure. You're just wanting to play football. But all of your decisions are made by people that are kind of trying to forecast the future. And ultimately, decisions then get made that in hindsight, you think, okay, it's not the right decision. Do you reckon that even currently, with the way the game is today, that's even worse for young ballers?
I don't know. It's tricky. I feel like football's changed. Even when I was young, coming for Spurs, even Spurs is a different club now. Even when I left, the likes of Ryan Mason, Harry Kane, Andros Townsend, Steve Corker, these players started getting the chance just because the dynamic changed with Pochettino and stuff. So timing's key. But I do believe now more than ever is an amazing time to be a young player coming through in England. Foreign clubs are desperate for young English talent now, like to Germany, Spain. I know a lot of players that go in early, and when I went, nobody went, Only player who kind of went before me was kind of like Jay Bothroyd, Colin Kingsley Richards. I know Joe Cole had a stint in, but it wasn't like these guys are coming
extensive. These
guys are coming from big clubs, and they had a kind of safety net. I had no contract. I was starting again.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to be a young player, a young English player. But also you have to realize that, look, you're gonna make mistakes in life.
Yeah.
Would I have stayed at Palace, footballing wise? Yes. But holistically, as a person, no. I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through stuff I went through. So you mustn't be afraid to make mistakes. At the time, we all thought it was the best decision. Maybe it wasn't, but you have to make decisions by faith, and sometimes you get it wrong.
One thing I noticed as well is Trinidad.
Yeah.
Going forward, after all of this, is that something that you're really looking forward to the prospect of?
Yeah, so my father, my biological father's from Trinidad. My mom's from Scotland. I'm from England, so I can technically play for three countries.
Yeah.
However, Trinidad have been the ones who really want me to go and play. They've been so fantastic in, approaching me and asking me to come on board. For myself, something playing for internationally is something that I definitely would like to commit to. Just I feel like as a family at the moment, it hasn't been the right time.
Yeah.
So I consider it a huge honor to be called up for Trinidad. They played in the World Cup in 2010, 2006. I think it was
That's the
2000.
it was the Kenry Jones and England one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 2006.
6, yeah.
2006, and yeah, I can't remember where it was. But yeah, so like they've achieved history before, and where they are now, they want to achieve more history.
Mm.
So I'm in contact with the manager there. They've been really supportive, and so we'll see what happens there. But I consider it a huge honor to be considered to play for any country.
Mm. I always see it really powerful though when people kind of want to go and play for kind of where their heritage is from, and it's a massive topic because I'm pretty sure you're aware of Sam Cox when he went to go and do
Yeah,
it, and a lot of people are kind of. Do you reckon that a lot of players should look into it more? Because I guess there is this sort of attachment that if you're kind of up and coming and you're hot and you get the chance at England, it's kind of attack it. And then some
yeah.
people kind of have that other mindset about, okay, is it about just getting to the England, or is it about longevity and impact where you can go and make a real difference and there can be loads of you playing? What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are every case is different.
Mm.
I've got some friends. For example, one of my closest friends, Paul Jose Mpoku, amazing talent. He's Belgian, played for Belgium, captain up all the way up into 21s. Never got called up to the first team.
Yeah.
And then Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, started calling all the talents from all around the world who weren't playing for the countries, the adopted countries.
Yeah.
And so a whole host of them went back. Gael Kakuta,
Yeah.
midfielder, just different ones. So many players, like just unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
And so they went back and they kind of formed a whole new, fresh identity of the country. And so, like, I've seen it happen. I think it's amazing. But as I said, every case is different. Like, from the outside, football fans and media just see football.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's families. Do you know what I mean? And there's families and family situations that maybe the public don't know about, and committed to that constant traveling on international breaks when, there's already sacrifice with families, taking a hit throughout the season and stuff. They don't see that side. So on the outside, the decision might look like it makes complete sense, but from the inside, you don't know where the man's at. Not just the player, where the man's at, where the family situation is at. So I do encourage any player who has an opportunity to play international football, go for it. But obviously, it's down to them. It's down to them. It's a short career, but of course, you have to manage it with family.
No, for real. Communities is something that's a massive part of football, and having a community or network that you kind of can speak to, discuss things with. A lot of players always talk about without having a group of like-minded individuals, they find it difficult because not everyone understands the lifestyle of a footballer. All is in God is great, it's massive, and it just seems like there's a real sense of community there. But how did that all come about, and how is it now moving now?
Sure. So as we spoke about, I've been on some journey. I was playing in Belgium 2015, and I wasn't able to really connect to a church. Football schedule's interesting. Games on Sundays, Wednesdays, just tough getting connected. So praying about it, I felt the Lord say, I want to start a movement for players connecting faith and football. Spoke to 3 or 4 of the boys I knew along my journey who had faith, who had questions, or wanted to kind of go deeper in knowing God. Would they want to start an online meeting once a month? I said, absolutely. So we had our first meeting, fire. It was just so powerful, so timely, so needed. We just encourage each other. Obviously football, but deeper than that, you're a person before you're a player. Do you know what I mean?
For real.
And so as words started to get around, and other players like, I need that as well. I need that encouragement. I need that help. I need that community. So we started meeting weekly. And fast forward 5 years later, 2020 now, we've got over 100 players with 3 different groups, one in English, one in French, one in Dutch. And players you know, that speak those languages around the world can join weekly meetings, daily prayer sessions. Like our goal is to unite and equip players, you know, to live for God, but also to disciple them, you
Yeah.
know, because, you know, it's only those in football know what it's like being in football. You
Mm.
know, the temptations, the struggles, the mindset, in changing room banter, all that stuff, like it's internal. So to have people that you're running alongside with the same vision but going through the same stuff, it's been life changing for me, for the boys, and the group's really grown. So I realized that my journey has brought me to a place where I can be effective in leading it. Because if I had just had a smooth career coming through at one club and everybody just celebrated me, I would never have known what these guys are going through. Everything one of them have been through.
You've
You know,
been.
the UK group, we've got 70 players. I've been through something like what they've gone through. You know, I've been about a club. I've been injured. I've been high. I've been low. I've been the Wonderkid. I've been through everything. So, or if I haven't been through it, somebody else has been through it. So,
Yeah.
you know, God's really using it. Lives are being changed, and it's my joy to be a part of it.
No, that's sick, man. And what do you reckon now is, because you still got a lot of time footballing wise
Mm-hmm.
in you, and like I said, you feel like it looks like and seems like and is that you're just at this place of where everything's in control.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to be next? Because I know if I say what do you think is next, the answer
Yeah,
probably would be it's all in God's hands, which is
yeah,
right. But where would you like that to be?
yeah. No, I have ideas of where I'll be,
Yeah.
but in terms of you know, I'm hungry. You know, sometimes players can say, "I just trust God." Listen, I'm hungry. I'm hungry to play. I'm hungry to enjoy the game. I'm hungry to score, get assists, help my team to where to achieve our goals. So, you know, my immediate thoughts are to try and get Forest to the Prem. There's no you know, hiding that you know, fifth in the league. So we've had a great season. So, you know, I want to really finish well here. And you know, I just want to enjoy the game, bro. You know, a happy footballer is a dangerous one. You know, if you get somebody who's free on the pitch and he's just enjoying it, then, you know, it will just click. And so I'm just looking forward to just playing as many games as I can before my career is done. I'm 28 now. I'm hoping for a good another 8 years by His grace. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm really enjoying being back in England now. And my family's really enjoying being back here. So we'll see what happens with that. But I see a long, prosperous career for the remainder.
No, that's amazing, man. On your travels, what was there any point that you saw something and you thought, you know what, this is wild? Because I mean, you being in the academy, you're kind of protected almost. Everything's almost done for you, and you saw kind of the best of what everything had to offer, and then essentially you've almost gone into what is the wilderness. Is there anything you saw and you thought, you know what, like maybe this football thing, maybe I shouldn't have done this? I mean, now in hindsight, it's great that everything's worked out and it served a purpose because you can tell that story. But was there anything you saw on that journey and you thought, you know what, this is just absolute crazy?
Yeah, I've seen everything. I've seen so many stories. I've seen so many things that I've seen a lot. Let's just say that, but never ever have I seen a circumstance that's made me think about stopping. Never. This is the game I love. You know, as a kid I dreamed of being a pro. Every night I'd actually sleep with a ball in my bed. I'd have my boots in my bed. I'd have Ronaldinho post. I'd fall asleep watching Ronaldinho and Zidane on cassette. You know, so it's like that's my dream. So, you know, seeing stuff that never really affected me. Obviously, what I went through made me question whether I should stay in the game. But in terms of seeing some wild stuff, I've seen a lot of clubs make interesting decisions, players do interesting things, fights. I've seen a lot. But in all honesty, hardly anything shocked me. I think when you come through the ranks and you kind of your bubble is what you're used to, you know what players are like. As you grow up into professional game, it gets more intense. But that's what we love, like the banter, a lot of the stuff. Like people wouldn't get it, but it's just the way that footballers act. Sometimes we're like big kids, you know, in the changing room. But that keeps the youthful exuberance because you see each other every single day, day in, day out, highs and lows. You have to stay young. So I think most players say that when they retire, the thing they miss most is actually camaraderie.
Camaraderie and the banter in the change room, right?
And so, I enjoy it, man. I enjoy it. The funniest player I ever played with was Jimmy Bullard. This guy is just, words can't describe him. Such a special guy. We still stay in contact, but I'm talking about somebody who would do stuff and you'd just be like, wow, he's so free. They don't care what people think. And what a player he was, by the way. But yeah, he was an incredible player. But yeah, he was one of the characters that will forever stick out to me for his banter and stuff. But yeah, man, I've been on some journey, that's for sure.
No, 100%, man. Just a final one. Again, like I said it to you before we start going, it's one of the things that I always champion you on, always celebrate you on, is that you share your story. And a lot of footballers don't share their story, maybe because they don't feel like it's in their place to. A lot of them don't share their experiences, or they don't openly talk, and it means that sometimes people can't learn from that. Do you reckon that there needs to be more people sharing their stories like you have? Because I feel like there's a lot of footballers that without you kind of coming out and saying, you know what, yeah, a Wonderkid will go through this, they probably won't know what is lying ahead of them. There's a lot of kids that go into academies and they don't know that at some point, the pureness of them enjoying football may get to a stage where you're going to have to make tough decisions, or it's going to be tough. But as long as you just remember that football is pure and that you just need to enjoy it, you get through it. Do you reckon that more people need to be telling these stories?
I think there's definitely a place for pros coming into academies, telling them the realities of what it's like. Palace is a bit different, but at Spurs, like even the new training ground, the facilities are like it's like futuristic. It's so perfect. And if you grow up in that place without seeing the other side, I played for some clubs where you have to wash your own kit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not like, some kids in the academy be like, what?
Yeah.
Why? How? So I think it's
when you was coming through, they probably had stopped it by then, but were there still things where like scholars were cleaning like first team players' boots?
Yeah. I was on
so you were still part of that?
I was on boot duty. We used to have to do the balls, boots, air in the balls, have to clean up, sweep. Previous to my generation, players, some academies had to paint the stadium, had to paint the stairs and paint the railings and stuff. Like, that's what
some of the players' boots that you had to clean then in your time?
They would put players with the same position.
Okay.
So the defender would have a defender. So I was on Luka Modric's boots.
Oh, sick.
So I made sure that they were really nice for him. I made sure that the laces were nice and loose. Outside was nice and clean. Inside was soft, dry. Yeah. I love boots. I remember what it was like when I couldn't afford boots. So I always make sure I look up. Even now, I'm with Nike. I look after boots.
Yeah.
So Luka's boots were fresh. So yeah.
No wonder he was balling out there. That makes sense now. Why wouldn't you ball out if your boots are like in pristine?
Yeah. Because he used to wear the old school Nike blue vapes, the blue mercurials, even after they had been discontinued. So I took after them. Anyway, so yeah, I think just to answer your question, there's definitely a place for pros who've been through stuff with a story to come and mentor, speak into the lives of young pros. I think it would have helped me personally, if I was somebody who gone before me and spoke real. A lot of players are different.
Yeah.
Some people don't feel comfortable speaking in front of the camera. That's completely fine.
Yeah.
If you can find a way just to inspire, even if it's just one player or one person, then
it's
better than nothing.
That's it though. I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's that speaking real, and that's what you always do. It's not about like kind of sitting up in almost interview sort of situation. It's just literally telling someone that, you know what, this is the reality of the game and industry you're getting into. Like it's going to be tough. It's going to be great sometimes, but it's going to be tough. I think there's a real space for it. Or even speaking in media spaces that are not like your Sky Sports or your BBC. It's kind of like raw grassroots where people can hear it. I think there's a space for it, and it's what you've been doing for a long time. So credit to you, man.
Thank you, bro. Much appreciated, man.
Bro, really appreciate you stopping by, man. How have Forest got Strava and that for you guys training?
Yeah, everyone's Strava.
How are you doing in the Strava rankings at the moment?
Good, man. I'm a strong runner. I enjoy running. You got to go there mentally, but it's been good. It's been good, really good.
I respect it still. Thank you for your time today, bro, man.
My
That's
pleasure,
another
man.
episode of Quarantine Talks, guys. Out.